How's it going, guys? My name is Tavarish, and believe it or not, this is my McLaren P1.
But at one point, it held the record for most expensive P1 ever sold, at over $2 million. This hybrid hypercar was absolutely immaculate, with only 315 miles on the clock. But then, it had a bad day, and I bought it at a fraction of its original price to challenge myself to the biggest car rebuild I've ever done.
And today, I'm gonna do something that everyone thought was impossible. I'm gonna try to get this thing running for the very first time.
And that is easier said than done, because not only are we rebuilding this world-beating hypercar to factory standards, we're trying to convert the world's cheapest example into the fastest, best-looking, and most unique McLaren P1 on Earth. Now, while everyone says that they have the cheapest car on the internet, I can actually prove it because I use AutoTempest, a platform that puts every major car listing site into one super easy search. And that lets me see that the prices for P1s right now have gone absolutely insane. And not only does AutoTempest allow me to compare with all of Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, but I can narrow my search down even further to make sure I haven't missed any listings. It's an absolute game changer when it comes to finding the exact car you're looking for. And I use it every day to window shop and look for my next project car. Even though I'm pretty convinced that the car I'm working on today might never be topped.
So welcome everyone to the biggest project on my channel. And even after all this time, we still have a lot to do. Now, the wiring and the bodywork, which were the biggest things on this project, are still the biggest things on this project. We are still working on those two things, but I don't want to talk about that right now. We'll get to that later in the episode. What I want to talk about is this thing right here. This is the beating heart of my McLaren P1 Evo, or what we think is going to be the beating heart, because this is the 4-liter V8, but if you look on the side here, you'll see that the turbos are actually missing, because I just got a package from the Netherlands. So take a look at this. First off, this is from Tachyon, and Tachyon is the company that originally made the turbos for the P1, and they have come through with these guys. Look at this. These are brand new turbochargers. Most people, when they get turbochargers that are modified in some way, they send it to a company, they have like a core, and then there's probably some CNC or mill work. But these are a little bit different because these are straight from the manufacturer from Mitsubishi Japan. So Mitsubishi Japan has the specs for this turbo. They did everything on the interior of this. Tachyon did all of the engineering, but it's customized in such a way that these turbos produce more than twice the power output of the stock engine. I also went to the Netherlands to see these things before they got shipped out to me. So let's check that out. So this is what I'm talking about. I am actually in the Netherlands, in a place where you guys probably are a little bit familiar. I am at Tachyon. Now we have Timo over here. It's been a year since I've seen you, right?
Long time ago. Long time ago.
Tachyon are the people that originally made the P1 turbos. They did the turbos on the Speedtail.
Yep.
They make engineering heavy projects for turbochargers. You guys do stuff for Alpina.
Yep.
It's been fantastic working with them. You can tell I'm excited because behind me are my new turbos.
Just to explain, as you just mentioned, original P1. This is what we're looking at here. Original motor squirrel turbine housing with the core of the P1. And then of course the compressor housing of that car, which was of course your original setup.
I do have two of these, but they're not in as good shape. Yeah. The way a turbocharger works is this is the center section, and exhaust energy goes in here, this spins, and then this creates positive pressure in the intake stream. And then that goes into your engine, mixes with fuel, makes more power. So the better these are optimized for airflow, the better power, the better response you'll get. Since these turbos were created, a lot more technology has come out. So this is, let's say, generation 1 of this technology. And then we get to this, which is the 720S turbos.
Yep. Yeah, so this is 720, where you can see twin scroll turbine housing. which you can see, which feed both exhaust of the V8 banks. It's also TD05.
Yes.
But it looks bigger.
Yes.
Because the wheel, due to the fact it's more shinier, it's also has a larger wheel, and also especially on the turbine side. But this is 720S specification with the stock compressor housing, which is of course also now one of the top end models of McLaren.
Yes.
Then if we move forward. Into the latest technology step.
So this is my bespoke turbo. We don't have a name for it or anything like that, but I'm calling the car the P1 Evo. So this is the P1 Evo spec turbo. And I want to be very, very careful because these are prototype parts. So right off the bat, if you compare them, you can see that this physically is bigger than this. And also there are less blades. Now that does a few things. I'm not an expert on this. So Timo, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it creates a more open environment so we can actually push more air.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same thing goes on the back. If you look at the back of these, you can see how many blades this one has versus this. But if you also take a look at the angle of the blades on this, it's very, very open. And these are also, computer simulated and all that. You've gone through various iterations to see that this will produce the kind of power that we need for this car to go 250, 260 miles an hour.
As we just saw, turbo technology can get really technical. But what really blows my mind about these turbos is that they're installed exactly like stock, using the original McLaren oil lines and coolant lines that must be connected for everything to work properly. And when everything's in its place, it's almost impossible to tell that anything was modified at all.
So now the turbos are on, and that's really good, but we have to do a bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The transmission, this thing right here, which is the original transmission to the P1, actually has to come off because inside here, there's a thing called a clutch. Well, this is a dual clutch transmission, and the clutch itself is inside the transmission. And in order for the transmission to hold the kind of power that this engine is gonna make, we have to modify the clutch, but first we have to take it out. And we have to do a bunch of other stuff, which I will explain in voiceover.
With the transmission ready to come out, I can either attempt to do it by hand and blow my back into the middle of next week, or do what Jack suggested and use an engine hoist and a chain. Turns out it's easier to use the tools that are made for this specific thing, and it led us to our first discovery of the day.
So it turns out this already had a flywheel, and when I say flywheel, this actually isn't a flywheel. This is what's called a DLD, a driveline damper. This is from the 720, and it's spaced specifically so not only can the crank position read these little teeth, but also the starter can engage with these teeth over here. What we have to do now, though, is right here. So we have to turn this transmission up and then take all of this out, because right here, connected to this shaft, which is the input shaft, we have to take the clutch out. And it's actually really easy to take it out. All you have to do is take all this stuff off. You have to take the bell housing off. Then the clutch should come right out. And then I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do to it. And look at that, amazing transmission. I actually have no idea if this is good or not. I wager it's probably okay, but this is the clutch assembly. And as far as I know, all you have to do is just lift it out. It is very, very sharp metal. Lift it out, and there we go. There's one McLaren clutch assembly. Oh, it's leaking. So this is the transmission that was underwater, and you can actually see on this side, there's a little schmutz there. That's okay. We're gonna clean this all out. Actually, it doesn't look that bad. So what we're gonna do now is send this guy out, and this has to go to New Zealand because a company called Dodson, who is really, really good at rebuilding and upgrading dual clutch transmissions, is gonna give me a new clutch that should handle north of 1400 horsepower. Now, I don't know how they do it. I wager that they probably increase the pressure of the plates inside. They add material, and they have some material that is better at clamping loads and all that stuff. But they should return a unit that is ready for some really serious power. Now, I have to put this back together. I mean, we'll clean it up because it looks really kind of grotty. And then we put this back on the car. Then we start it up. It should be that easy. It's just that easy. It's not that easy. Now I have this thing suspended in the air, and in my mind, this should be filled up like around here. And the drain is right here. If I release the drain, all the bad fluid in here with some water will be released. And okay, there we go. Oh, that was not my wrist. That was good. So let's see if this makes a ginormous mess. And actually, that's not bad. That may be a false alarm because there are two fluids in this. There's a clutch fluid and then there's a trans fluid. Oh, I think there's water in here. 3, 2, 1. Oh! Oh! Ah! Yeah, that was the bad one. I believe this is the housing for the filter. If I take this off, we're gonna see what, if anything, got filtered out. Even though the car wasn't running after the flood, you never know. And I believe I do have a new filter that we can put in here, but even if we don't, it's not like we're gonna be running this transmission. I do like transmission fluid, like how it smells. It's really good, especially when you get it all over the floor and some on your shoes. Yeah, that's filter housing. The way you put it in the car is actually very interesting. You have to bend the filter because the frame rail is like right here, so you kind of have to bend it. Honestly, that looks brand new. That looks really good, and all the fluid is really good too. So I'm gonna go ahead and make an executive decision and say that this transmission is probably okay.
But we still had some disassembly to do, and one more filter to take off, which was nearly impossible by hand and required the use of some persuasion. And after it was out, I could see why it was giving me such a hard time. And with a bit less confidence that my P1's transmission was okay, I continued cleaning what I could before moving on to the very nerdy but crucial next step.
Even though we're gonna start this engine up, we have to do it in a way that isn't really using the harness that we made, because we still have to check that entire harness. We still have to finish a bunch of stuff on that harness. But for the engine to start up, I have a secret weapon, and that is this guy right here. So he is Eric Cruz from Vanquish Tuning. Now, you guys might know him. The OGs of the channel will know him because he's the one that tuned my Lamborghini Gallardo, the twin turbo Lamborghini that's up there. And he spent, how many days did we spend? It was like 5 days or something?
It was 5 grueling. It was 5 days.
Yeah, it was very hot in that shop. And it was, I mean, we did learn a lot, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it was very loud, and we got the fire to come out the exhaust, so that was fun.
And you brought, like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 packs of ginger ale. Like,
I did.
Thank you so much.
I brought a lot of ginger ale. So Eric is here, and he's going to be the one making this engine run, and he is a complete wizard when it comes to that. So in order for us to figure out what the timing of the engine is, since we don't really have a reference for it, Eric is going to be using a it's basically like a degree gauge, and he's going to put that onto the harmonic balancer here. And what that's going to tell us is where top dead center is. So what Eric did is he put a dial gauge right here on the #1 cylinder. And in theory, you rotate the crank until the piston actually comes up as far as it can go. And we use a dial indicator to see where that point is, because it comes up all the way and then it starts coming down. So right before it comes down, that is called top dead center. And that's what we need to know in order for all this ECU stuff to work. What sort of sound do you think this engine's gonna make when we fire it up for the first time?
honestly,
Yeah.
you're trying to get me in trouble, man. But I did say earlier that I feel like it's going to sound like 2 Nissan Sentra engines going at it.
Okay. So we can cut that.
With Eric working on dialing in the initial timing for our first start attempt, I buttoned up the transmission, making sure it was truly drained of all fluids, then reinstalled the bell housing without the clutch this time, then installed the first starter to have ever been put into a McLaren P1. Again, another world first that no one will think twice about, except for maybe the McLaren executives that don't return my calls. You know who you are. With the transmission attached with all the correct hardware and studs, we had to make sure that the featherweight chassis wouldn't do a backflip after we installed the engine. So the two jacks made sure the carbon tub was strapped down on the lift without any chance of an oopsie.
Okay, next moment of truth. This engine in this car, and we have lots of people. Well, it's me, Jack, and Eric, and we're going to be putting this in the car, and I think it's going to be easy because I've done this literally 1,000 times. I say it's going to be easy.
It's easy.
He says it's going to be easy.
It's not that bad.
Keep going. Keep going.
Clear here.
Keep going.
Clear.
Keep going. Stop. Keep going. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
That's good.
Good. Okay, cool.
There we go.
There we go.
That's what it was. Okay, yeah, there we go. Now I'm tight.
All right, so quick crash course on installing a McLaren P1 engine. It's actually very, very simple. You have about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. You have about 12 13 millimeter bolts around this area, and then you have one really big, really long bolt right here for the trans cross member. And once you have that, then you tighten it up. Well, before you tighten it up, you actually spin this guy a little bit, and it would help if you had the right tool. But if I had the right tool, I would spin this to take up the slack, then we tighten that up, and then the entire thing can go up as one unit. That's really exciting. Look at that! Look at that!
It's a P.5.
It's a Jack just said it's a P.5. It's a P1, guys. So now that we got the engine in the car, it is on to a different problem. And this problem was actually solved off camera. We were working really hard yesterday and realized that we forgot to film some of the damage, but you can see what we actually did. So this is the oil tank of the McLaren P1. Now the oil tank is where all the oil is held because this P1 has a dry sump system, meaning that all the oil is held here and then it gets called into the engine via some pipes, and it makes the engine like the center of mass lower, which means that the handling is better, and it's better for handling like high G loads. So this keeps all the oil in here and then it distributes it into the engine. Now the issue that we had is that this is made of aluminum, or if you're in the UK, aluminium, and when this went into the water, since this was a hybrid car, it did something called electrolysis, which means that this became like a anode or a cathode or something, and essentially it turned this aluminum into Swiss cheese. Like, it just made it super porous. It started just pitting and the oil was leaking out of here. Now the reason why it looks like this is because I just had it fixed, and I had it fixed by one of my friends. Go on. Moist. What'd you say? Moist? Did you say moist? Yeah.
Well, it was submerged in moisture.
It was submerged in moisture. So
that's kind of what caused the electrolysis, I reckon.
Exactly. Yeah. So his name is Hendo. Again, the OGs of my channel will know him because you've done some work on my Lamborghini Gallardo. Right. What he did here, and you can see all of his dimes laid out here. And if anybody in the comment section starts talking crap about this, then listen, you can do better on your P1. Right here is really cool. You got this little road. You got little gutters here. This is wonderful.
I just want to finesse it in there for you. To his form and function. It's one of those things.
What is
a little stronger that way?
So I gave this to you like 8 p.m. last night. He worked through the night. He said he finished this at about 5 a.m. today, and he messaged me at like 10 a.m. and he was like, "Hey man, it's done." And I go, "Hey, so
Did you take pictures?
Like, did you
shoot me?
Well, no. I said, did you take pictures? And you're like, no. But I don't care. It's fine. You did not sleep. You're about to get a Monster Energy drink.
Yeah.
You know, which is my payment.
It's the same.
Which is my payment. He gets paid in Monster Energies. Only one, because I'm not made of Monster Energies. We are going to put this in the car, and the name of the game is sort of temporary, because there are brackets and stuff like that we can put in, but I want to hear this engine fire up. We still have a lot of work to do for the engine to fire up, but for this to go in, I put this in with the help of this little bungee strap. It's going to go in, and then I can connect the breather pipe. Then a few pipes go on the engine, then we fill it with oil, and then we can put a battery to it and then crank it to get some oil pressure. And after that, it should be off to the races. It should be good to go. I think there's way more steps than that, right?
There are. There's always stuff that comes up. I mean,
it's like Sprite is not just lemon and lime. Like there's more to it than
really
that.
not.
And it goes into its little cubby here.
Yeah, use your high torque bungees.
Yeah. We need to have a specific sort.
These are from the spaceship.
Yeah, there we go. It is.
Use these on the space. They use it on the space shuttle. There we go.
There we go.
That's
There we
teamwork.
go. Now this is under a lot of tension. Like there's a lot of tension here.
The sheathing.
Okay, there we go.
The sheathings come off.
Hold on. I have to do one thing, or else it's not, like, it doesn't count. That ain't going nowhere. Okay, so now it's good.
Now, I have to mention that the oil tank was put in a pressurized hot water tank to make sure it was clean inside and out. But it always pays to then run a can or two of brake cleaner through the tank to make sure any remaining seawater-related crud is gone. I did the same thing with the oil feed and return lines, which were untouched since the flood, but cleaned up extremely well because they only had a few hundred miles of use on them. The O-rings looked like new, and it was a good sign that we could move forward and get everything plumbed in for the next step. I did, however, run into a slight issue that I didn't account for. Since I removed the hybrid drive assembly from the car, the 4-liter engine physically sat about an inch or two further back than the P1's original engine did, which meant the oil lines would have to be stretched a bit to fit. It wasn't a big deal, and ultimately everything worked out, but when it comes time to hard mount the oil tank to the car, I'll have to fabricate some spacers to make sure everything is as OEM as possible. And speaking of that,
some of you will notice that I'm putting back clean bolts. This is what the old bolts look like, and none of these are going back on the car. I'm only keeping these just so I know I have a reference of what actually has to go on the car. What I'm putting back is in this box right here. And this is worth its weight in gold, and I'm not joking. This is assorted bolts from another McLaren, and since McLaren use all the same kind of bolts, I got this, and this was, I think, about $200, and it's very, very, very worth it. And I got this from AZ Cycle Parts, and AZ Cycle Parts actually sent me a lot of the McLaren stuff, the cross-platform McLaren stuff that you can get. Even though I have a P1 and they only made 375, McLaren does reuse a lot of their same components. So AZ Cycle Parts sent me out a bunch of stuff, including this. And this has been a lifesaver on this build. So if you guys need parts for your McLaren, Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari, anything kind of high-end, even BMWs and Mercedes, I'll leave all their links in the video description below. They're not a sponsor of this build, but they are a very big supporter of this build, and I can't shout them out enough. They are awesome. So I still have to find more bolts, but it's cool because I have them all.
the P1 Evo was taking shape, even though it seemed like a million miles away from making noise. But as I installed more parts, I saw more light at the end of the tunnel. I washed and installed the oil tank breather necessary to actually fill the tank without creating air pockets. Eric then got busy installing the custom wiring harness he made for this startup. I have to note, this was not the harness that we've been working on for the past year. That will come to play later in the build. Eric made this harness himself out of a spare engine harness I had laying around, and for lack of a better term, he's an absolute genius at wiring and integrating systems in cars. And with that, it meant we could install the next big ticket item.
So this is one of the downpipes. This is a gigantic downpipe, and this was made by my friend Chris at Unobtainium Welding, and he made the entire exhaust from scratch right here. And these are custom, bespoke for this car. Now, this is gonna go on, and it's black because it was actually powder coated. It was Cerakoted by my friend Jonathan at Luxury Choices Powder Coating. And I'll put all the links in the description there. They do a really, really good job. The good thing about this, having a giant downpipe, is that, well, it's actually not hard to install. Just kind of do one of these, I think. Just make sure, yep, there you go. Like that, go underneath everything. And then, oh, hold on, okay, and then we go underneath, we do a loop-de-loop and pull, and then our shoes are, why doesn't this fit? Okay, we're gonna go, okay, there we go. See, that was easy. Now before I put this on, you might notice that the mating surface doesn't actually have a gasket. So we are going to be doing a gasket here at some point. We have to make a custom gasket because the mating surfaces are just 2 pieces of metal. And when 2 pieces of metal are mated, sometimes they have differences in the surface itself. It's not perfectly flat. You do need a gasket, and when they expand, those imperfections may become bigger. So we are going to use some... We got some copper gasket maker, and it's made for exhausts. So I'm just gonna put some on here. Now people are gonna be screaming at me not to do that, but realistically, this engine is only gonna be on for probably 20-30 seconds because we need to check that everything runs. I wanna hear how this exhaust sounds, and we need to seal this exhaust up. And also, the O2 sensor, the oxygen sensor bung, is right here, so we're going to be reading what the exhaust is seeing in terms of air-fuel ratio. So it's very, very, very important that this copper gasket maker gets on here and is allowed to set. So I'm going to do this for both sides, and then we put on the titanium exhaust, which is, I mean, it's cool, it's titanium. It's awesome. All right, so pro tip. We're using some general purpose Valvoline grease, and Valvoline is a partner of ours, and they are a good supporter of this channel, so quick shout out to them. But I like to put a very, very light amount of grease on the hanger of the exhaust. It doesn't really get hot, and also we're not going to get this thing super hot, but just so it goes into its little hole where it's supposed to go. And make sure you get the grease all over your hands, so you get that on your nice new exhaust, and then when your car burns down, then you know who to blame. It's yourself. It's always yourself. And 3, 2, 1. There we are, like that. And this should slide right in like it was meant for it. Look at that. That is awesome. Also, since I'm in the mood to shout out companies and people, we just got a big delivery of Bolt Depot nuts and bolts. So these are really cool. These are 13mm head, and they're flange. And if you look right here, I don't know if you can see, like inside, they're not perfectly circular. So it requires a little bit of torque to put them in, and then they stay there. And that's really, really important for an exhaust, because with expanding metal, you definitely don't want these things coming loose. So shout out to boltdepot.com for hooking us up with a bunch of really, really awesome hardware. All right, take a look at this. This is, first of all, super light. This is a custom titanium exhaust for this P1, and it looks so absolutely freak nasty insane. So I'm trying not to touch it, because titanium, when it heats up, if it's not perfectly clean, then you can actually leave imprints of things like oils inside the titanium, and then it'll burn in your fingerprints, which is kind of cool. And I didn't know that that was going to happen, so that's actually a thing that happened on my 675 LT. I don't want this to happen on this car because it looks kind of dumb. But what isn't dumb is that when this heats up, when I actually do, you know, high speed runs or big power pulls, this will turn purple. And it is the coolest thing in the world when you have an exhaust that you know you turn purple because you drove it hard.
The stock exhaust on a McLaren P1 is made of Inconel, a material honed in the intense battles of F1. But on the P1 Evo, we decided on a much bigger diameter pipe made of titanium, the same kind of metal that's used in aviation and space travel. But try as I might, I wasn't able to install it without touching it, which meant we had to figure out a way to clean it thoroughly.
So a good way to clean titanium is anything ammonia-based, but this is Perfect Glass by G-Technic, and G-Technic is also a partner of mine. I'm doing a lot of partner promos today, but this is exactly what we need to clean this titanium exhaust, and I have a clean microfiber towel. It's brand new, so I'm just going to douse it, kind of let the cleaner do its work, and then that'll get all of my grubby fingerprints off this very expensive, very bespoke exhaust, so we can hear the sound of its people. Tommy, what do you think this is going to sound like?
It's going to sound like two SR20s playing tug of war.
You know what? I'm going to stop asking you things, Tommy.
After the exhaust was as clean as I can get it, it was time to potentially get it dirty again.
So I got this Valvoline full synthetic European vehicle 0W40. This is what the engine calls for. And usually on a brand new build, you want everything to seat in, so you need something with a lot of zinc. Thankfully, the cylinder walls are not new. These are actually used. We didn't replace the cylinder walls because they're in really good shape. So that means we don't necessarily need brake-in oil. We're just gonna go with this, and this is exactly what the engine calls for. We're not doing anything special, but we're not doing anything that the engine would not like. So the thing that I'm not sure about is how much oil to put in, because the P1 is a little bit different than the other McLarens. You see, the oil tank itself is a little bit smaller than other McLarens. Usually you'd put in like 6 or 7 quarts and then do like a little bit of a dry start, and then you fill it a little bit more. But with this, since the oil tank is smaller, I'm gonna put in 5 quarts, and then we are going to use the starter. We're gonna jump the starter and then make sure everything has oil pressure. Then I'm gonna add another 1.5 quarts. And this is as per the Cannonball Garage guys. So that is what they think will be best for this engine to start, and that's what I'm gonna do. And my pouring skills are really, really good, especially when it comes down to like a funnel that's really small like this. I'm told that you don't pour like this, you pour like to the side. It's like gangster. It's like a gangster pour, you know? So you do this, and my wrist muscles are good. All right, so we're just gonna pour like that. I can probably leave the funnel here. Yeah, there you go. That's fine. We should get the Valvoline logo, you know, visible, because they are the original oil brand, you know? And they do a lot of cool stuff with race teams and YouTubers, like ones who like rebuilding P1s. And they have a lot of other fluids like gear oils and coolant and stuff that makes your car go. Yeah. Link in the description below.
Contrary to popular belief, every engine is air-cooled up to a point. We weren't installing any coolant lines or hoses because we weren't getting it up to operating temperature, but we simply wanted to see if everything worked and sounded as it should. Now, if you're concerned that things are getting a bit sketchy with such a high-dollar build, don't worry, it gets much worse.
Eric's gonna show me signs of life of this engine. Look at that. Look at this. Oh yeah. That's so cool. All right, so we are about to crank this engine. Obviously, we're not going to fire it over because it doesn't have any fuel in it right now, but cranking allows us to run the engine to get oil into all the nooks and crannies inside the engine, and lets us know if there's compression. We can hear what it sounds like. Also, this is the first time this will be cranked over with a starter. It's kind of a big deal because this is, I mean, the P1 didn't come with a starter, and this is the only P1 in the world with an actual physical starter. So
Freddie, you're making it sound like having a starter is a flex.
It's not a flex, but it is a flex in a P1. It's a flex in a P1 when you don't have a hybrid drive assembly, because in a regular P1 you'd have the E motor actually starting the engine, actually cranking over the engine. So to do this means that, number one, we have modified the car extensively, and number two, we are actually on the path to having this run and drive, which is crazy. Nobody's ever done this before.
Okay, but it's still a weird flex.
It's not a weird. It's, you know what? Are we? You know what? Man, just let me have this.
Okay.
Ooh. Sounds good. Okay. Do we have any leaks? No leaks. When I put together my 675 LT engine, we did like 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds cranking, and we did that a few times. And you want to let the starter, you know, you got to give it time to breathe, because the starter can get hot. It's not actually supposed to start the car for that long, but we need that just to make sure everything is running right. So I think if we want to do like 10-15 seconds.
Okay, you got the timer?
I can count down from 15.
You're good.
I lost count at around 7, but I was like, that seems good.
You know, people at home are gonna actually time it.
Not if I edit it. All right, so we are now underneath the P1. I'm a little hunched over because there's not a ton of headroom here. But Eric,
plenty of room.
Yeah, I know you got plenty of room, but you're also in the cavity of you know, this is where all the magic is going to happen. We are getting really, really close to starting this engine for the first time. Now, what Eric has done so far is he found true TDC, which is top dead center.
For whatever reason, McLaren decided not to put any type of timing mark on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that just made it a little difficult to find where true TDC was. After finding that, we went ahead and put this mark on the bottom so I could just hit it with the time light, crank it over, and adjust the reference offset, basically to make sure that what shows up on the computer as far as ignition timing matches up with reality. If we were just to go ahead and try to fire it up now, the computer might think that TDC is like all the way out here, and it might be 120, 180 degrees off.
Your timing light, basically, it's like a strobe light, like a calibrated strobe light. And then when you turn it on, it should only strobe on when it's near this TDC. So your eyes actually adjust to it, and you can see if it's moving, you know, this way or that way. So for that, we're going to actually have to have this cranking. So once we crank it, then you can see this in action, and it's actually quite cool. So now we get to the fun part. So this is a fuel pump. It's a Walbro 450. It's what we had in the shop, and also an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. See, the way that it works on the McLaren is that it's called a returnless system. So older style fuel systems they have a feed and a return. This is a little bit more efficient. So the only fuel line we actually need to plumb to the engine is one that comes from the fuel system, and then we have to fashion a little T from this, and then that one side goes to the engine, one side goes to the return, and then this feeds the engine. And I think if we plumb everything correctly, then we should hear a fire up.
Now, it goes without saying that you shouldn't try this at home because you're dealing with fuel, spark, and explosions. But we're also using quality components and testing everything before it's fired up. The last thing you want for your $2 million hypercar is a fuel fire. So we made sure to connect the fuel pressure regulator to the car with the highest quality zip ties before moving on to what is perhaps the most nerve-wracking moment of this entire project so far.
So after working on this car for a very long time, I mean, I got this car a year and a half ago, and now we are about to start this engine for the first time.
Maybe.
He says maybe.
Maybe.
He says maybe. So I got the peanut gallery behind me. We also, do we have a fire extinguisher somewhere?
Right here. I gave it to the responsible one.
Yeah, so Shop Dad has a fire extinguisher. And the only thing I need to do now is touch this to the engine, and it should fire off. Now, I don't know, we don't know what the fueling situation is going to be like, so it might cough, might sputter, it might be really, really rich, and Eric's gonna have to do some tuning. We have set up a little command center for him over there, so that's pretty cool. But I am both nervous and excited. I want to hear what this unobtainium exhaust sounds like. I want to hear what these turbos sound like, and I want to hear what this engine sounds like. I mean, let's do it. You ready to go? All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh.
That's so cool.
It's a little smoky. Oh, look at. Oh, that's good. So
That's new engine.
that's all new engine stuff. When my 675 started for the first time, that's what. Yeah, all this oil is just from that. So, oh my goodness.
So let's get this thing tuned up so you can give it a rev.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it, dude. Oh my goodness.
You're dripping.
Is it? Is it dripping?
You're dripping oil.
See? Oh no!
Oh!
Yes! Wait!
We weren't the only ones. We weren't the only ones. The turbo.
Yeah.
Has to be the turbo. Yeah.
Might be the turbo. Is it? Yeah, it might be the turbo.
2 steps forward and 1 step back seem to be the running theme of this build. Since we're modifying so much on this car, we have to take problems as they come, and it seemed like this smoke issue was one I've actually dealt with in the past.
All right, so we ran into an issue, and this is actually the same issue that we had with the 675 when we changed the turbos. When you initially start an engine, the oil pressure in that engine is very high. It's something like 100 plus PSI. And then you force that into the turbo, and if the turbo can't take all that pressure, it blows it out the seals. Now, what's good is that turbo seals are usually pretty forgiving. So if we fix this problem, then the turbo seals should hold, just like they did on my 675 LT. And this is the banjo bolt for the feed line, and you can see that it's like a full flow feed right there, and what we need is for this hole to be a lot smaller, and that is a restrictor. So we're going to try to see if we can get one locally. I know I ordered one on Amazon for my 675 LT. They're cheap, they're like 20 bucks, and we just put those on here, clean everything up, and hopefully we don't run into this problem again. But I think that was a massive success. That was a huge win. Other than just being a little bit oily and being, you know, a little bit dirty, I think everything that should have worked.
It did.
And yeah, we did get a lot of oil out of the exhaust, but if we fix this problem, I think we should be golden.
Dude, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what this exhaust sounds like.
So I am gonna get on Google and see if I can find this locally, and if I can, we're gonna start this up again.
I tried as hard as I could to find a restrictor locally, but then remembered a perfect solution that I had right next door.
So I figured, since I already have a solution that works on this car, why don't we just take the restrictors off of this? We'll have to take apart the engine a little bit, but that's okay, because I really want to hear my P1 run and rev and do a bunch of really cool stuff. So hopefully, if I take this car apart, put all the parts onto that, then we can hear it rev cleanly, and oh my goodness, I am so excited to hear that. And a 1 and a 2 and look at that. Hey, no oil leaks.
Pretty clean.
That's weird. That's so weird. So what I need is that guy right there. So it's on either side of the engine, so I'm gonna get that out.
With a 14mm socket, a bunch of extensions, and a few choice words that I can't repeat without getting demonetized, I managed to snag the aftermarket turbo oil restrictors on the 675 LT and prayed that I didn't take my favorite car apart for nothing.
Now you can see the difference between one and the other. It's you know, there's a thickness difference. So, you know, it's you versus the guy she told you not to worry about.
With the triple C thick restrictors finally installed, it was time for yet another moment of truth.
Now we're gonna run it again, and this time we are, well, when I say we, I mean Eric. Eric is going to be taking a look at the tune to see if we can actually rev this thing. Now we're not tuning for boost or a high horsepower or anything like that, but I do wanna just hear what this sounds like. Also, if those restrictors work, we still have a ton of residual oil in these exhaust pipes. So running it for a little bit, like less than a minute, is going to allow us to get some of that oil out. So it's gonna make a little bit more of a mess, but that's okay. Now we only wanna run it for about a minute because there's no coolant in this car. We haven't hooked up the coolant lines. So, you know, we don't wanna create hot spots where there shouldn't be. And yeah, I think for a minute, it should be fine. Just gonna put that right there. Just how do we just pull the pin and then aim and squeeze. Sweet. I'm gonna forget that. I'm gonna panic. I go, ah! 3, 2, 1. Maybe a little bit too high.
So that was, remember when it was running before and it was running about like 2,500 RPM?
Uh-huh.
Well, right when I dialed in the fuel, she loved it.
Uh-huh. So that was a little bit too high. That was 5,000 RPM.
5,000 RPM.
Well, it's a good thing that we have a lot of oil. Also, if you take a look, we did smoke out the shop a little bit, but I think we solved our problem. I think that was just residual oil, so we figured that out. By the way, that scared the crap out of me. All right, so like that's.
Dude, I jumped.
It did sound good though. That sounded really cool. That's 40.
Yep.
Okay. Can you go down to like 30?
That's.
30. Okay. And what you wanted it to be at like 15?
Well, yeah, I want to bring it to 15.
Okay. All right. That should be okay. All right. So we're gonna set it to 3,000 RPM as a safety net. Eric's gonna try to rev the engine. Let's see what happens, you know? All right, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Perfect. Cool. All right, so it revs. That's pretty good throttle response. I mean, it's like, whoa, 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 that's nice. That's nice, that's crisp. It's almost like Eric knows what he's doing. Almost.
I just want to let you know that I got a piece of test equipment on loan. We can't keep it.
Okay.
It's on loan.
All right.
But it's specifically for the P1. It's completely official.
Really?
And yeah, let me get it. Let me get it.
Okay.
So, here's the official piece of test equipment. It's, see, for McLaren P1.
Seriously, yeah.
That's how you know it's legit.
Okay, cool.
So,
cool.
yeah, I mean,
What's in this?
I mean, here, it's...
Dude,
what is this is officially I did not borrow this from my daughter. This is from McLaren. See? See? It's completely legit.
So, are we gonna be able to rev it with this?
Dude, it's a piece of McLaren test equipment. Absolutely, you start and rev it. So see this. Let me show you how it works, and then I'll cut you loose. So Tommy,
You can't be serious, dude. You set up my P1 to an RC controller?
this is from McLaren. I did not work all night to make the world's first RC controlled.
Your daughter's name is on it.
Avery.
Yeah, there we go.
Sweetheart, you haven't used it in years. I just needed to borrow. I'll bring it back. This is from McLaren.
Okay, cool.
So
Yeah. Oh no! No way! No way! So I can wow.
Yeah. So this is how you rev it, and then how you start it is you push it forward once to start it. It's just like the start and stop button. You push it forward once to start it, and then when you're done, you push it again to stop it. and there you go.
Oh, I push that forward.
Yeah, so I'll turn it off to disarm it, but yeah, so this is, you push forward, starts,
Okay.
push forward again, stops,
Okay.
and then you pull it, pull, rev, and you got it.
Dude. Dude. That is amazing. That is so cool. Okay, we need to do this. So I don't need to do the thing anymore? Starting a McLaren P1 with a RC controller.
No, that's an official.
With an official, it does have the McLaren logo on it. Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
All right, so 3, 2, 1. Whoops.
Hold it.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
That sounds good. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Nobody on earth has this. Nobody on earth can say they started a P1 with a freaking RC controller. That's
Seriously?
How long did it take you to do this, dude?
Well, not that long. Well, I'll put it to you like this. When's the next time that you're going to go visit Matt?
I don't know, probably in a few months.
Because if you don't get this thing finished and you go and you come back, you might see your P1 doing donuts in the parking lot
With no driver.
With no driver.
With me, Rex, and Jack just sitting in lawn chairs laughing our asses off.
We just need this to control the wheels.
Yes.
Dude,
So how long did it take you to do the whole thing?
3 days.
well, okay, so Eric says 3 days. There's not 3 working days. He was here until like 5 in the morning, like every single day. He slept in his car. He like literally slept in his car. Dude, I cannot thank you enough. This is like, you have no idea how big of a deal this is. I mean, we had some hiccups and everything, and I had like probably 3 heart attacks, but like it sounds good, it revs good. Dude, thank you so much, man.
No problem, bro. Just.
Dude, this is amazing. So I think
I'm gonna have to return this to not Avery, but McLaren.
Yeah, but McLaren.
Yeah.
McLaren want this back. It's a prototype.
So I'm bringing it back, Avery.
Okay, so I have to put my heart back in my chest. I think that's a good place to end. In the next episode on this car, I don't know when that's going to be, but we're going to be putting the harness back in. We're going to be working on all of the body work, and then we're going to have this all together and hopefully running and driving. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take, but we are going to burn the midnight oil just like Eric did, and we are going to be wrenching every day. Thank you for watching, guys. This has been insane. What's up?
Real quick, you mind if we give a shout out to my buddy Daniel?
Absolutely. So Eric has a friend Daniel, and he has a channel. Correct?
Yeah. His channel is actually Daniel-san.
Daniel-san.
Yeah, he
Of course. Yeah. So his buddy is Daniel-san. Actually, Car Wizard's friend, employee,
And his Ferrari mechanic.
Yeah, his Ferrari mechanic. So go check that out. He's a really good dude.
So what he's doing, he's learning how to tune.
Yeah.
And I'm humble enough that he came to me for some tuning.
Oh, you're so humble. You're so humble.
And so his current project, he is turbocharging a 1976 Fiat Spider from scratch.
Nice.
100%. He's maybe not doing this, but he is doing some pretty cool stuff. So please check him out.
Yeah, I'll put everything in the link in the video description, and you should check out everything else in the video description below, because I put all of our sponsors and our partners that made all of this possible. And I'm sorry, I'm just freaking out. I'm excited, and I'm so happy, so happy that this engine runs. It sounds awesome. So I'll see you guys next time. I'm just laughing because Derek yesterday said, "What'd you say? This is rougher than Fergie's national anthem." It's like, wow, it's pretty rough. It is.